stars.
Haaland scored the hat-trick. Brilliant left-foot strike by Salah.
Ferocious support.
It doesn't get much better than that.
Pulse-pounding drama.
And this incredible game takes another twist.
All on your home for soccer, SiriusXM FC.
You don't think about it, you just get it.
The Premier League returns August 11th on SiriusXM FC 157 and on the SXM app.
This is the 2023 Training Camp Tour. Now more from Las Vegas Raiders Training Camp with
the offense evolves and grows. And so there's some new terminology, some new things to pick up, but OTAs is good for that. Really, it's just about getting on the same page with guys. You know, this offense has so many little, not every route is just a route of a piece of paper. You got to be a football player out there and kind of play the game within the game, and that's what I really like about this offense.
You sick and tired of riding the ups and downs of the stock market? Your portfolio should be providing you and your family with passive, predictable returns every month, and I can show you how. My name's Grant Cardone, and I founded Cardone Capital to give the everyday investor access to real estate assets typically reserved for the ultra-wealthy and ultra-connected. Over the last 30 years, I've bought and sold billions of dollars of real estate. We only purchase Class A, stabilized, cash-flowing assets in the best markets in the country, and that's cash flow from day one of ownership. Don't be fooled by offers of high returns by speculative development funds that always get punished in recessions. Protect your money and your portfolio while getting monthly distributions and the tax benefits of an owner. Visit CardoneCapital.com. Go to CardoneCapital.com. That's CardoneCapital.com.
MLB Central. Then get fired up with the Mad Dog on High Heat with Christopher Russo. After that, join Brian Kenny for MLB Now, followed by live midday baseball action. Then catch Off Base, followed by Intentional Talk. As the night begins, Harold Reynolds and Adnan Virk throw the first pitch, leading you into all the action on MLB Tonight. It's a full day of baseball on MLB Network.
Every match of the Women's World Cup.
What a goal by Rapinoe! 3-2 U.S.
The biggest college basketball games.
The Tigers are women's basketball national champions.
The National Women's Soccer League.
This night belonged to the Thorns, Portland, winning their record third NWSL championship.
And the WNBA.
Taurasi on the other end, hits the three.
Hear women's sports right here on SiriusXM and the SXM app.
And NFL Plus has you covered. Get ready for the 2023 NFL season and get access to the NFL preseason. Watch live out-of-market preseason games on NFL Plus, including all 23 live NFL Network games across devices. Stream exclusive coverage of the top 100 players of 2023 and discover all-access content from players, coaches, analysts, and more. Sign up today at plus.nfl.com. Terms and conditions apply. Live preseason games are subject to local blackouts.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I see.
It's all here for Jamar Chase, who have his greatest season ever.
And helping you prepare for your draft whenever you want. Just search Fantasy Drafts on the SXM app. It's your audio draft kit with player rankings, position breakdowns, and expert drafts all in one place.
When you're a SiriusXM subscriber, you've got access to commercial-free music, channels from almost every genre, and channels created in conjunction with the biggest names in music. Eminem's Shade 45, Pearl Jam Radio, Bruce Springsteen's E Street Radio, and more. Visit www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly or call 844-711-8800 now. Activate your radio and start listening now.
It's in the game. On Hip Hop Nation Channel 44. Then go even deeper with exclusive channels in the SXM app. Hear who's next on Hip Hop Nation Discovery. Or hit the gym with Hip Hop Nation Workout.
Jumpin', them boys up to something.
For the latest hip hop, start with Channel 44. Then explore more in the SXM app. To hear this channel, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or head to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly.
Channel like no other.
Hey, yo, you got the RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan.
It's your homie Ice Cube.
Yo, this is the Queen Latifah.
Your boy Busta Rhymes.
What up, though? It's your boy Big Snoop Dogg.
Curated by the greatest.
Real hip-hop fans that love hip-hop music, this is for you.
LL Cool J's Rock the Bells Radio.
Channel 43.
To hear LL Cool J's Rock the Bells Radio, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visiting SiriusXM.com.
SXMApp.com/go.
Yo, the movement has already begun. Where are you?
Finding your hometown broadcast on the SXM app is easy. Just click the favorite star and listen all season long. Showtime! MLB Network Radio is your home plate for baseball conversation and expert analysis. To listen to MLB Network Radio, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or come to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Bitty Bitty Beachy, let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the show. My name is Jordan. It's Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe with 27 podcast applications. And you can Google it if that makes sense to you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I thought it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I guess I gotta set my clock right. If you gotta set your clock right, give that some praise. You can also follow Big C Sports Podcast on 27 podcast applications on Google, Alexa, Spotify Speaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcast, Castbox Podcast, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, Podchaser. I'm telling you, you ever chase somebody around? It's a good feeling when you're chasing instead of being the chase. You can also follow Big C Sports Podcast on Good Pods. You can find us on Geo Savant Podcast out of London, England, as well as India and Africa. You can also follow Podtail, YouTube, Hubhopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Repod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Listen Notes, Podcast Wise, Podbay, Verbal Podcast, Podcast Policy, Podcast Republic. I'm telling you, you ever have a republic? But there's only one. I think Hollywood is starting to get the message. And I thought I was joking about it, but I'm not. It's called allfeeds.ai. That means the robots are taking over. And when they take over, there's a switch. You want to know how to turn them off? I have a clue. I'm going to give a quiz. I'm going to ask you, who's the most romantic singer in the history of the universe? Well, my vote is Teddy Pendergrass. And when he said to those robots, listen up, Hollywood, he said, turn off the lights, ding, and light a candle. Listen up, Hollywood. You see, I'm in a romantic mood, yeah. He said, turn off the lights, turn them off, and come to me. You see, there's something I want to do to you, baby. Man, you do not sound like Teddy. I don't sound like Teddy, but I know what he meant when he said, turn off the lights. You got to turn them off. You got to turn those robots off, because really, if we don't take the time to realize sometimes it's better doing it on your own. The rumor has it, and I'm not joking about this. I heard some good boys talking about it on a conservative radio talk show, how they're using robots to replace people. And the manufacturer might say, that's a good idea, because they don't need a pension. They don't call in sick. They don't show up late. They don't leave early, and they don't need a bathroom break. Think about that. Well, rumor has it they have autonomous driving trucks to go from a sea to shining sea, to take our produce from East Coast to West Coast, from Mexico to the Canadian border. And the manufacturer might think, that makes sense. I'm going to cut down on having to pay people. Think about this. Rumor has it, I think that there's a movie called They Clone Tyrone. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, if they can clone people, but I know people talk about what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Well, I've had chicken and I've had egg. I don't know which came first, but they both taste good. Get that some praise. They're finger licking good. But rumor has it, they're starting to think of ways that they can clone making a baby. What? Oh, you must be out your mind, Curry. No, rumor has it, they are working on ways to take people out of the responsibility of producing offspring. Now, can you imagine if you come home 2 days early? You're supposed to be out of town for about a week, but you come home 2 days early because the robots are doing the job that you could have done. So you decide to come home 2 days early. And then you come home to surprise your spouse, And next thing you know, R2-D2 is getting his groove on. That's not a good thing. R2-D2 is a brother they had in Star Wars. But imagine if robots could take the place of a man or a woman. I know some people say, good God Almighty, my prayers are coming true. But it might be something we joke about. But could you imagine? People say, oh, it's already happened. Look at the internet dating. You don't know who's matching up who with who. They go on these internet dating, get these profiles. They don't know who you line it up with. You might line up with someone that looks good to you. They sound good to you. It might be something you say looks good to you physically, but you don't know where they've been in their past. That's why the good book says, always trust your gut. I say, give God the praise. He started internet dating a long time ago, if that makes sense to you. People getting in all kind of situations, getting those soul ties. You don't know who you're hooking up with. And the robots say, well, they programmed it through the robot. Robots are not all good, if that makes sense to you. I just want to make sure for Hollywood, I know a lot of people are really hurting. And they're trying to figure out how do they get their jobs back. And why would the industry that's about profit, why would they start paying people if they don't have to? Oh, Curry, you out of your mind. You think it's not already here? Imagine when we were young, a lot of us maybe over the age to drive a vehicle. Imagine growing up and you had to go to the bank. You could actually go inside of a bank and you could walk up to the teller, you stand in line, and they had 9 windows, and maybe if those 9 windows, they had 8 tellers in that bank. Well, nowadays, maybe a couple decades ago, they started with the ATM machines. And now you can walk into a bank and it's 25 people deep because they only have 2 people working the windows. Why is that? Don't they want to get your money? Yes, they do. But the banks make a bigger profit when they don't have you on that payroll where you're making $50,000 a year. They have those ATM machines right outside the front door before you even walk past the front door. You walk past the ATM machines. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, Curry. Sometime, I kid you not, I've seen more ATM machines outside of the bank than tellers with the windows open. And that's a shame. But robots have been taken over a long time ago. We have autonomous driving cars. A lot of things are coming, and I don't think it's all good for humanity. Especially when they start talking about making babies with a robot. Sometimes it's good to do things the old-fashioned way. At least that's my opinion. But everybody has their own opinion. I want to say you can also follow Big C Sports Podcast. I'm unlike any sports podcaster in the universe. Why? Oh, you just talking, Curry. No, I always produce the show. Number 2, I direct the topics. Number 3, I broadcast all the shows. Number 4, I do all of the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our lives, especially when you come home and somebody said a robot made the baby. That's a skit Richard Pryor had. Someone said Jesus made the baby, but imagine conception. But at the same time, the commercials are done. I'm unlike any sports podcaster in the universe. All of my commercials are done up front. I don't do the average show that people do. Normally they'll have 4 spots where they'll put in 3 or 4 commercials. I do all of mine up front. I just keep going and going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny. You got to give that some praise. I do it extemporaneously, start to finish. You think it's easy? Try it sometime if that makes sense to you. I really do appreciate the way things have grown with technology. And then the stats are provided. I do the storytelling. I even do the play-by-play up to the line of scrimmage. 4 wide outs, 5-man front by the Niners. The Raiders back the pass. Jimmy Garoppolo throwing deep. It is intercepted in the end zone. Intercepted by the 49ers. Big C. Big C's playing for the 49ers. Well, yeah, why not? If that makes sense to you, the much money they're paying guys to throw interceptions. I know the Raiders and the 49ers are playing in the desert this time down in Las Vegas over the weekend. It's a preseason game, but they have the silver and black in Allegiant Stadium, and they're called the Vagabond Raiders. They've been in Oakland. They've been in Los Angeles. Then they came back to Oakland. Now they're in Las Vegas. And rumor has it, the Raiders might be planning on moving to Texas because they offered them more money. What about loyalty? What's loyalty got to do with anything? At the same time, the show is uploaded to 27 multiple podcast applications all over the universe. and streaming live. I'm telling you, I'm number 10, never missed a show since creating Big C Sports Podcast back at Salem Media. And the show outside, it comes out of New York City, but I'm in Dimdale Hills, California. People say Dimdale Hills, California. Yeah, lots of hills in California. Parts of the Midwest are all flat, just like some people are flat broke, because they're letting the robots take over the AI. If you think about, I was talking to a friend of mine who used to work with ESPN this morning. He's out of Atlanta, and we were talking on the phone. And he said, Charlton, how you notice how many people have been let go from the broadcast networks? And I said, yes, amazing. It's crazy. And he said, because artificial intelligence, they can get young people and not pay them much money and just have a pretty face. Nothing wrong with a pretty face. But they'll take a person that may have 25 years experience in broadcast, and they will give somebody a chance that has 25 days in broadcast. Nothing wrong with having an opportunity. But we all know the world is changing, and the AI, when you think about, I think it was Jessica Rabbit. It was a rabbit, a bunny rabbit that played, I know it was Jessica Rabbit because they made her look sexy. She had a lot of curves. Had a lot of curves where a lot of men like curves. And sometimes people fall in love. They fall in love with an animation. I said, yeah, but she was just a rabbit. They say to some men, that's good enough. Give being good enough some praise. Men fall in love with rabbits, and now we're falling in love with artificial intelligence. But we can't get rid of people. And just when you think, oh, they're never going to get rid of people, think about that the next time you walk into a fast food restaurant. And I was unfortunately, I was in one last night. I didn't stay long because I said, do you guys have collard greens? Lady said, what's collard greens? But she told me, she said, you got to check on the kiosk because they want you to order your food on the computer kiosk before you go to the counter. And then they print your number out. And then you walk up to the counter. They said, this is for you. I'm telling you, there was no one behind the counter. They were all cooking the food. And a fast food job used to be the first job that a lot of people got when they wanted to enter the workforce. But now you have major corporations. Number one, they don't serve collard greens, which I was really perturbed. But number two, no one waited on me. I had to order my food at the kiosk. So that meant they didn't need a person. And what happened if you can't read? They even got pictures of the food. Isn't that something? There was no human interaction until the lady gave me my bag. It's already here. We got to fight back. It's not a joke. If they get rid of people, and they're starting to do it, then how would people even get work? If you're paying the fast food workers, say $17 an hour in California or $18, whatever it is now, and you have 5 of them, so you're paying $20 an hour, that's $100 you're paying every hour for those 5 employees. How much do you have to pay the computer? You don't. And so when companies look at that, it's not like it's going away, and that's why Hollywood is striking. I mean, they're paying people money, but they don't have a living wage because inflation's through the roof, and people are trying to figure out how to put food on the table. And now the corporations, I was hoping I was wrong about it, but I was saying there's a book by Robert Thibault called Automatism. It came out about 2 decades ago. And he was saying that by the year 2035, about 35% of the population in the United States would be out of work because the robots are taking over. And when you think Robert Thibault was wrong, next time you go to your bank, before you even see a person, you see ATM machines. When you go into that bank and you have 3 tellers there and they have 9 windows and you only have 3 tellers, but there's 25 people waiting in line. It's already here, people. Whether we're going to have this monetary currency change or not, I don't know, but it's a shame. But what won't get cloned? They clone Tyrone, but they won't clone Big C. Give that some praise if that makes sense to you. You got to stop them from cloning. You got to stop cloning people. They clone Tyrone. You know who they also may clone? The Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know, anybody going through issues, I'm telling you, they will stand on their head to get our veterans some help. You know anybody going through issues, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give them some praise because we all need somebody to lean on. We all need somebody to lean on, and I really do appreciate having somebody to lean on. And what did Teddy sing? He said it's so good leaning on somebody than somebody leaning back. Unless it's a robot. Be careful, people. I know we want to advance our society, but be careful. The robots are trying to take over. And if they get smart enough to realize they don't need people, then we're all in trouble. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. I want my reparations, and I want my reparations now. I know some people are wondering, what are reparations? All I say is Google it if that makes sense to you. And when it comes to some of my brethren that I talk to foolishly on my part about reparations and why it's due, they say, "Oh, that's never going to happen, Curry." And I say, "Really? You can't never say never." And I point them to what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to give a quiz. Is everybody ready? Take out your cell phone or your electronic device and Google Survivors Today Act of 2017. The Justice for Uncompensated Survivors Today Act of 2017. Not 1917, not 1817, 2017. It's United States legislation that requires the State Department to report to Congress on steps that 47 countries in Europe, not the United States, not states in the United States, not 47 states in the United States, but 47 countries in Europe have taken to compensate Holocaust survivors and their heirs for assets seized by Nazi Germany and post-war communist governments. And we give that praise. Next, descendants of chattel slavery, the way President Abraham Lincoln told us, reparations now, reparations forever. So even if you're the dumbest person on the planet, you can Google Survivor Today Act of 2017 and you shut your mouth when you talk about no reparations, because all we're doing is asking for what our Jewish brethren got, and Black Americans helped end Hitler's reign in Nazi Germany. I want to also pay homage to the California Reparations Task Force. It's so important. It's more important than touchdown, home run, three-point play. Oh, man, Willie, he's going all the way. It's more important than that. Big C Sports is for erudite people. I want to give praise to the California Reparations Task Force Chair, lawyer Camila Moore. Brilliant. I want to praise Dr. Amos C. Brown, Vice Chair. Brilliant. I want to praise the best senator in the United States of America, California Senator Stephen Bradford. Brilliant. I want to also sing some praise to Council Member Monica Montgomery Steppe. Brilliant. I want to give praise to Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. Brilliant. I want to also give praise to Dr. Cheryl Grillis. Brilliant. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. Brilliant. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, professor at Cal Berkeley. Brilliant. And I want to give some praise to Donald K. Tamaki. Brilliant. Give them all praise. They're part of the California Reparations Task Force that was mandated by California Governor Gavin Newsom. Really do appreciate that. And that's why I love talking about it. And also, I want to say, I'm asking for this to be mandatory reading in the United States. And maybe even in Europe. Lloyd's of London and Shirt the Slave Ships. There's an 1,100-page report that provides recommendations for lawmakers by the task force. The Department of Justice has it right now. It should be coming out soon. But it's also, you can go online and you can get it. But it's important that people have access to it. It's oag.ca.gov/ oag.ca.gov/meetings. That's oag.ca.gov/AB3121/meetings. And you can see the recommendations there. I think it should be must reading by everyone. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want to do something that I always do on a beautiful Friday. Give Happy Friday. Give Happy Friday some praise before I get into some sports. I always want to go pay homage to where I come from, because when I talk about reparations, I'm not shucking and jiving. I'm asking for the same thing our Jewish brethren got, and we give them praise. And the Justice Department can do it. And I believe it will happen. I want to pay homage to my beautiful family on my mother's side. My great-grandmother called her Mamo. Beautiful, loving, kind woman. Always making sure lots of love in the family. Lots of food in the belly. And then my beautiful great-grandfather called him Pop, former military man and former Negro League baseball player, known around his church buddies as making the best moonshine in the history of the universe. And saying, boys, get out of that barn now. How many times I got to tell you? You know, sometimes you got to tell a boy 3 or 4 times. In a man's mind, 1 minute in a man's mind is like 10 minutes in a woman's mind. So when a man says, just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. Sometimes it might take 10 minutes. Give 10 minutes some praise. I think that's funny. I'll be there 1 minute. Lord have mercy. Life is so funny. And then I want to praise my beautiful grandmother, Muddy, a beautiful, loving, kind woman, always making sure lots of love in the family, lots of food in the belly. She was a seer, could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. And she still helps me to this day. Really do appreciate Muddy. Then my grandfather, Hezekiah, another wonderful person, a seer, could oftentimes look at a person, tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. And then I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and then also coaching all boys, the Little League baseball team, to the championship of the universe. Give mama some praise. Come on, started a Head Start program, a food program, and then coaching all boys, the Little League baseball team, to the championship of the universe. In an all-man's league, they were always playing James Brown. This is the man's world. She said, hey, but it be nothing without a woman or a girl. Hey, I'm telling you, the best person I ever met in my life. At the church, everybody wanted Mrs. Curry's cooking. At a restaurant, everybody wanted Mrs. Curry's cooking. And at home, everybody wanted Mama's cooking. She oftentimes say, son, how many plates have you had? I said, plates are baby crap compared to what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my reparations. And sometimes it didn't go over too well. Should have given me a lollipop instead. If that makes sense, that would have taught me. But that made me a voracious reader, because I had to go to my room sometimes when I was considered a smart aleck. You ever been called a smart aleck? Sometimes you go read. Parents understand what they're doing. What they do, appreciate that. Love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. On my father's side, my grandfather Albert Curry, he was a pastor, had 2 churches in Oakland. He built the 3rd church in Central California with his own hands. And then he owned 2 gas stations in Oakland, one on Bancroft, the other on Foothill. They were Shell stations. I'll never forget going there and trying to get all those penny candies. He'd give him to us. He knew how to give us candy to keep us quiet, if that makes sense. And no, we're not diabetic, because he also made us drink lots of water afterwards, if that makes sense to him. Really do appreciate him. But what I love most, he owned 40 acres of land. Like the Emancipation Proclamation, when President Abraham Lincoln, that I want to chronicle every show, he told black Americans, black soldiers, if you help the Union defeat the Ku Klux Klan and the Southern Confederates, we'll give you 40 acres and a mule. Without the help of black Americans, the Union was going to lose the war. President Abraham Lincoln knew that. And so he made a promise. He made a promise in signing an order, the Emancipation Proclamation. It promised black Americans 40 acres and a mule. Oh, that's a long time ago. Every one of you, when you go to work, you want your money. What if your boss said, well, you started a long time ago. We don't want to pay you. What do you mean you want your money for all that work I had you do that made me rich? You would go to your boss. Sometimes they pay people every 2 weeks. So you work hard 2 weeks, and you go to the boss man, and now they have automatic deposit. But you go to the boss man, you say, hey boss, I didn't see my ACH deposit for my check. The boss said, so what? I got rich. You wouldn't say, well, yeah, I understand that, boss, but I put in all my work and my effort. In fact, I even worked some overtime. And the boss says, so what? I got rich. How many of you would just put your head between your tail and walk out? Not one of you would. And that's why I say, reparations now, reparations forever. And you've got to get that some praise, unless you're wicked. If you don't believe in reparations, tell your boss don't pay your sorry butt. And see how that goes over. Really do appreciate my grandfather. And then my beautiful grandmother, Alberta Curry, working side by side with my grandfather with the 2 churches in Oakland and building a 3rd church in Central California. She also helped with the 2 gas stations in Oakland. But I really remember this. When I was 8 years old walking through a hallway in Oakland, I was on the way to get some more cookies. It's about 10 o'clock at night. I was tiptoeing. You ever hear kids trying to tiptoe into the kitchen to get some more food? I know a lot of kids that did that. Me and my brothers, it was like Soul Train. We formed a line to go get some extra cookies. But she touched me on my forehead. And she said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some more cookies? And I said, what in the world is she doing up at 10 o'clock? She normally goes to bed at 8:30. But she said, you going to get some more cookies? I said, cookies and baby crap to what I'm doing. I'm going to get my reparations. See, I was practicing when I was 8. It's not the first time someone heard me scream. I'm telling you, I don't take that for granted. Because Big C Sports, you mark my words, I'll be the first sports podcast to announce reparations in California. And you can get that some praise. I'm doing it now. Either lead, follow, or get out of the way. Really do appreciate my grandmother. She said, there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. Imagine somebody telling you there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. I've got that all my life. There's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. Sometimes when God wants to send something to you, God sends it in the sound of a voice. If I could just hear the sound of your voice. And that's why I'm saying I'm serious about Big C Sports and $6 billion, because it's coming. I'm talking to God. I'm not talking to negative people. I'm talking to the Ancient of Days, the Alpha, the Omega, Yahweh, if that makes sense to you, and it's coming. I really do appreciate what my grandmother told me back in the day, and then I want to say I appreciate my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that airplanes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night, always send the available mind to the highest extent. In fact, in the Air Force, I just had another epiphany. My father's roommate was the late Al Freeman Jr., who played the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in one of my favorite movies, Malcolm X, that was written and produced by the great Spike Lee and acted by my favorite actor, the great Denzel Washington. And Denzel doesn't know it yet, but when reparations are announced, he's going to start a movie called Reparations Now, Reparations Forever. But until then, Big C Sports will keep doing it. Give that some praise. Either lead, follow, or get out of the way. I know a lot of our Hollywood actors now, they really understand. And, maybe Big C has a point. Maybe it's okay to talk about more than who won a game. And there are more and more athletes waking up to it. And the politicians know it. There was even a pastor that was sent to me, a white man, and he talked about reparations. And people that say, "Oh, it's a black thing," I'm going to give a quiz. Pay attention. What color was President Abraham Lincoln? And I'm saying that to some of my conservative friends that say, "Oh, I don't believe in no reparations." And every one of their sorry butts show up to get their paycheck at the end of the week. Every one of them. Just do it for free. Why would you get paid? Just lift yourself up by your bootstraps. President Abraham Lincoln was right. That's why I want to give him praise. I know a lot of people don't want to give him praise. We want to celebrate President's Day, have barbecues, cookouts, chicken dinners. We don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but we still have the chicken dinners. We got to pay homage to President Abraham Lincoln. I want to make sure I do that. My dad always saying develop your mind to a higher extent. Really appreciate that. Then I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning. Which I would speak, always saying go forward, a voracious reader. Love Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then I love doing this because my beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. She set up the very first interview for Big C Sports. It was back at Salem Media We went on from there to become the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. It had never happened before in the country until two black men in the crew started doing our thing. And unfortunately, some good old boys said if two N-words can do it, we can bring in some insurrections. And they did. And they created shenanigans. And it went away. In fact, I was calling one of the guys today that used to do the producing of commercials. And the sound that I got was, oh my goodness, I'm having an epiphany right now. And I wanna do it now because sometimes you can't stage this stuff. And I want to make it sure that whatever I do on Big C Sports is factual. If I do it and it's factual, I want people to understand that it is factual. It's not something that I'm doing just for the sake of doing. And I mean that. And so what I'm going to do, if I can, because I want to make sure that you get it, because I talked about artificial intelligence and the robots are taking over, and we don't want the robots to take over, but sometimes the robots are taking over. But I called the guy today, and I'm gonna play the sound that I heard on his cell phone. Listen up, people. You can't make this stuff up.
The subscriber you have dialed is not in service. If you feel you've received this message in error, please hang up and try your call again later.
And that's to a former producer of commercials at Salem Media. But when you call Big C Sports, you get some praise. I'm telling you, God is my source. Some of those same people that told me, oh man, you don't want to talk about politics. Those guys are out of work now. All I want to do is talk about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Everything I say, I want you to Google it because I want people to get it. I don't know everything I need to know, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn, and I appreciate that because my daughter set up the very first interview. How many people can say that? And I'm still going and going and going and going. To God's praise. Daisy Trust Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you will prosper. You can be anything you want to be. Don't worry about people. Don't worry about men. Don't worry about women. Just focus on the Almighty and give God the praise. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. To my very handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College student, gonna be a senior this year. Malcolm, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspapers to look up stats for Big C Sports Podcast. And one day Malcolm said, Dad, he said, why don't you just Google it? I've been Googling ever since. And now I'm on 27 podcast applications and 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Because facts tell and stories sell. One day Malcolm said, Dad, do you want to see Big C Sports on TV? And I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. Shortly after that, it's on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. He spoke it into existence, like I'm speaking $6 billion into existence. All he did was talk to God. And that's what I want to leave as my message to people. And you can be anything you want to be. Isaiah 54:17, no weapon formed against you will prosper. And then Big C with all that wealth and knowledge over the years, always saying you gotta believe, you gotta believe, you gotta believe, saying let's get ready to rumble. I love saying welcome to the show. As we nominated the Big C Sports Podcast. I said it before, I have no scripts. I have no 3-bit teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. I do the best I can with what the good Lord gave me. And I ask young people to do the same thing too. And I just love the way things are going. I want to get into a little bit of NFL. There's a lot of things going on in this preseason. I hope that Devontae Adams is okay for the Raiders. I know they had a scrimmage and had to be taken off the field. But I'm going to tell you some things too. Just going to chronicle some of the games that are coming up. We got give me some praise for that, people. You got the New York Giants at the Detroit Lions, 7 p.m. East Coast time. And the Giants' focus is on Trey Hawkins III. The Giants drafted Deonte Banks in the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft, but it's been the 6th round selection, Trey Hawkins III, who's been drawing the attention on social media throughout the training camp. He earned a high grade in his final season at Old Dominion, and it's going to be interesting to see if he sees time with the starters tonight and if he can continue to generate buzz with another strong performance. I want to give him praise for all the guys that come out of college, and all you want is an opportunity. You just want someone to give you a chance. But the first person to give you a chance, it has to be the man in the mirror. You're the only one that can do it. Detroit Lions, their focus, offensive rookies. The Lions like running back Jamar Gibbs enough to not only select him with the 12th overall selection in the draft, but also to quickly trade away DeAndre Swift after that. And we know that Gibbs has tremendous potential. He's a great athlete, someone who can take any touch of the ball and take it to the house. I'm telling you, they already had some thought. I'm telling you, this guy can really run. When you think about Gibbs, ISF formation up to the line of scrimmage, 5-man front. The pitch running right to Gibbs. He's at the 50, cuts across to the 40, down inside the 30, at the 20. He's at the 10, the 5, touchdown! Gibbs, 50 yards. He has that type of explosive ability, and I think you're going to see why they're so high on that young man. I think the Lions have a good team this year. He's a tremendous athlete. Can't wait to see him get his groove on, if that makes sense to you. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. We got a feeling the Steelers are not going to the Super Bowl at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 7 o'clock p.m. kickoff East Coast time, and the Steelers focus is on Nick Herbig. The expectation was that the Steelers' 4th-round draft pick, Nick Herbig, he might need to move inside at the NFL level, given his size. The former Wisconsin star, he racked up 80 total pressures on 542 pass rushing snaps, primarily as an edge defender over his 3-year college career. So he's a solid athlete. He can really get to the quarterback. The NFL's a little bit different because the guys are a little bit bigger and stronger, and they learn a better technique at the NFL level that you may not learn at the collegiate level. The reports coming out of training camp are that he's so far stuck on the edge with T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith as the starters. The Steelers don't need more than a complimentary role from Herbig. I'm telling you, he has a great upside potential, if that makes sense to you. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback situation, we know Tom Brady's out of the saddle, no longer going to play football in the NFL. But we have touchdown Baker Mayfield that was doing his thing at the days of college down at Oklahoma, getting the start in this game. But the Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles, who has a Super Bowl championship already, has already announced that Kyle Trask will start next week because competition is good. But Kyle Trask, who's going to start next week, it proves that the competition at quarterback is not yet close to being decided. You're going to have to earn it on the field. Touchdown Baker Mayfield's coming off his lowest grade season of his career, earning a 52-point passing grade. He's got to get better, if that makes sense to you. Trask has just 9 dropbacks in his 2 years as career so far, and he was 3 for 9, averaging 2.6 yards per attempt. That's not good, but he's going to get better. It's about getting the time under the center, if that makes sense to you. Got the Green Bay Packers at the Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, this would have been a game. They had a game last year. Green Bay Packers at Cincinnati Bengals. It was Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers. Now it's going to be Jordan Love. And obviously, they're not going to start their starters. So Burrow's not going to play, still dealing with an injury. It's a 7 p.m. kickoff East Coast time. The Packers are going to focus on their youth and the defensive line. For the first time, in about 23 years, the Packers don't have Brett Favre and they don't have Aaron Rodgers, but they do have Love. But on the draft, think about Devontae Watt. He flashed as a rookie, but played just 224 snaps in his first career in the league. There have been some positive reports out of training camp, but the Packers really need him to take that second-year leap, to make that quantum leap in 2023. The Packers spent 3 draft picks on the defensive line this year, and they added Lucas Von Ness in the first round, Colby Wooden, and also Carl Brooks. We'll see what happens with the Green Bay Packers. Now, for the Cincinnati Bengals, their focus is rookie receivers. While any discussion about Cincinnati's wide receivers, it has to start with the talented Jamar Chase. He's the real deal. And T. Higgins. The Bengals will be hoping to have struck gold with 2 of the 2023 draft picks who can be complementary pieces for the next few years. 4th-round pick Charlie Jones. He dropped just 3 of the 113 catchable passes thrown his way in 2022. At Purdue, he could be the Tyler Boyd's replacement in 2024. we're going to see what happens with this team. They really need touchdown Joe Burrow to get healthy, to have any chance at winning their division. They got to deal with Baltimore and Superman Jackson in that division. Also, you got the Cleveland Browns, and they're going to be loaded. I mean, Watson's going to be much better this year than he was last year. So we will see what happens when that conference collides. I think Pittsburgh might, for the first time in Mike Tomlin's career, not skip the playoffs, if that makes sense to you. I got the Atlanta Falcons at the Miami Dolphins, 7 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. And the Falcons' focus is Bijan Robinson, that good old boy out of Texas. It's an easy option. But even before Robinson was drafted, it was exciting to think about him on an NFL field. He forced 104 missed tackles on 257 carries at Texas last year. He reminds me of Reggie Bush. In fact, he chose number 5 at Texas because he admired Reggie Bush at USC, if that makes sense to you. But keep an eye on how the Falcons move him around the formation this August. We've seen him in training camp clips and putting linebackers on skates. As a receiver, Robinson also sees some snaps out of the backfield. He's going to be a star in Atlanta, and having that turf to run on, I think is going to have a longevity because he's going to make a lot of people miss when he has good traction. Now, the Dolphins, their focus is going to be on the great Cam Smith. The injury to Jalen Ramsey was a knock to the Dolphins before the season even begins, and while he's expected back at some point in 2023, it does not look good that it's going to be early in the year. That means the Dolphins, the NFL's only undefeated franchise start to finish. That's back at Curry. That was 1972. I know it's 1972, but it's still on the records, if that makes sense to you. But the Dolphins need other players to step up, and to get something out of second-round pick Cam Smith, it would be a welcome addition to that team. He struggled in 2022 at South Carolina, but he also has an upside that the NFL, the scouts like, and that's why they picked him up. We will see what happens when he gets a chance to go up against real NFL competition. And now, in Washington, Daniel Snyder's out. You had a new group that bought the Washington Commanders. They're at Cleveland. This is for you. At 7:30 p.m. kickoff East Coast time, the Commanders out of Washington, their focus is on Emmanuel Forbes. Forbes was one of the best defenders in all of college football last season when it came to making plays on the ball. Over the past 3 seasons, he's combined to record 31 interceptions. That guy's a ball hog. That's like Deion Sanders, averaging 10 interceptions a year. Over the past 3 seasons, 31 record interceptions and pass breakups. Playing more aggressively than he did with a slight frame. I'm telling you, this guy is very athletic. Really can't wait to see him get his groove on against some of the top flight NFL receivers. We'll see what happens with him. Now, in my opinion, and everybody has an opinion, Deshaun Watson, I know he went through a lot of crap last year, and I'm not going to get into it. I wasn't there. Anyone can be accused of anything. He should have taken pictures with the women that he was with so they could have seen who he's dealing with. But hopefully he learns, if you're going to be someplace, let people know where you are. That's just my opinion, and I'll leave it at that. But seeing established quarterbacks in the preseason and seeing this guy play, there's a lot to look forward to for Deshaun Watson. Now, he did not play well when he returned to the field in 2022. He had an 11-game suspension, but he also had a lot of stuff on his mind. You know, sometimes when people say you accuse you of something, and they say, oh, he was accused, must be guilty. I don't know. But I know it had to mess with his mentals. But now that's hopefully behind him, no matter what happened with the court situation. An 11-game suspension produced just 3 big-time throws compared to 9 turnovers. And obviously people were somewhat disappointed last year. But the Browns have to move forward. They got to turn the page, and they have a talented roster. But it won't be enough to overcome poor quarterback play. I think Watson will get back to what he was when he was playing with the Houston Texans. I've seen him do some great things when he was at Clemson. But also, he took the Texans to the playoffs. And since he's been out of there, of course, they've been sliding downhill. But we will see what happens. I wish him the very best, irrespective of what happened and all the allegations from a couple of years ago. I know a lot of people want to say if you're accused of something that you're guilty. But I don't know. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I got the Denver Broncos at the Arizona Cardinals, 10 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. And the Broncos' focus is Marvin Mims, one of Sam Morris's bold predictions for the Denver Broncos in 2023 was that rookie Marvin Mims would lead the team in receiving. Oh, I don't believe that. Well, think about it. Given that Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, they're already on the roster, and that indeed is bold. It's a bold statement. But Mims has the athleticism. I'm not saying he's Randy Moss, but he has a chance to be a major factor right away in the NFL. He ranked third in the FBS last season with 602 receiving yards on receptions of 20-plus yards. I think Randy Moss averaged about 19, 18 yards a catch. But that's college compared to now. He's a good player, but not Randy Moss yet, not even Jerry Rice. But he's going to be a good player. And I think about when you got Wilson, Russell's going to have a better year this year than he had last year. He was getting used to things. And that's what I think is going to happen in Denver. And plus they have the mile-high altitude. It's going to be difficult for teams to go in there and win because Russell Wilson, even though his wife Sierra, they're allegedly having another child. I don't know. I heard about that. So he probably won't get a lot of sleep. But who knows? But I can't wait to see if Denver's improved this year. At the same time, the Cardinals, their focus is on Michael Wilson, another rookie wide receiver. It's worth keeping an eye on him. It seems like Michael Wilson might be on track to force his way into the starting lineup for the Cardinals, possibly as early as the start of 2023 season. Now, Wilson saw just 40 targets last season at Stanford out on the West Coast. And there's like 4 teams left in the Pac-12 now. So the Pac-4, Washington State, Oregon State, Cal, and Stanford. I started off doing college football at Cal and Stanford. In fact, my first game was down at the farm at Stanford. It was Stanford versus San Jose State. And now they're not a part of the Pac-12 anymore. It was the Pac-10 when I was doing my thing down there. But be that as it may, they will land somewhere on their feet. But I'm thinking about it. You have to compliment Marquise Brown and Rondale Moore with DeAndre Hopkins no longer in Arizona. Kyler Murray, can he control the temperature in Arizona? Been over 100 degrees like 20 days in a row. And even in the locker room, things just aren't right with Arizona. And I don't know how much longer they can count on that team being relevant in the NFC West. I'm going to get into Big C's picks next week. But in the NFC West, I have the 49ers winning that division. I have the Seattle Seahawks chasing the 49ers, but they'll be back maybe 2 games behind. And then I have the Los Angeles Rams. I know McVay's going to have some good players coming back. And then Arizona's going to mop up that division in the abyss, if that makes sense to you. But I feel that this team in Arizona, and there's a lot of things they got to take a look at, and they got to look at, in my opinion, the quarterback position and realize if Murray's going to be a star and not hang his head when things go wrong. The body posture doesn't look good with him. What did Obi-Wan Kenobi said? He said, "Luke, you're our last hope. Luke, you're our last hope." Well, if Kyler Murray is the last hope for the Arizona Cardinals, people are going to be asking the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? If that makes sense to you. Give that some praise. That's Big C's thoughts on some NFL football going around the universe. Really do appreciate that. I want to talk about some things that are happening over the weekend. And, oh my goodness, I had another epiphany. Had the pleasure of talking to Dwayne Wade Sr. just on Monday. And, we had a little bit of turbulence when the show first started, but I decided, I was testing the microphones and decided, well, let's just keep it, as I talked to Marcellus about it. And then Marcellus Brown, the father of Jaylen Brown for the Boston Celtics. But this, to me, we have so many great athletes over the years that come and go. I was hearing a conversation with Rick Barry on another program earlier today, and he was saying how the players today could not have played with the players back in his day. And maybe he's right. Maybe he's right. But at the same time, if you look at the conditioning of players now compared to when the days of Rick Barry, players are bigger, stronger, and faster. But maybe if they had the same type of supplements back then when Barry played, that maybe they could have been as big and strong and fast. Now, if you go to football, if you go to a lineman, the Steelers, when they won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, I mean, they had linemen that averaged about 260 pounds. Now you got linebackers that weigh 260 pounds. Nowadays, you have linemen that scratch about 300 pounds plus. So players have changed, something in the food, maybe something in the chicken, or something in the egg, if that makes sense to you. But I want to close off today's show saying reparations now, reparations forever. I hope that the NFL will follow what Big C Sports is doing as well as Hollywood and start talking about President Abraham Lincoln, how much we loved our president that helped the Union defeat the Southern Confederates in the Civil War. And we talked about the Emancipation Proclamation. We got to honor that. Reparations now, reparations forever. So until the rest of the world catches up, I personally want to congratulate Dwayne Wade Sr. on his son, Dwayne Wade, for his induction in the Hall of Fame. And also, there was an article that LeBron James had called for a standing ovation, give that some praise, to celebrate Miami Heat legend Dwayne Wade and his upcoming induction into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. The Los Angeles Lakers star, LeBron James, the all-time NBA scoring leader, he responded to the Heat's video honoring Wade's induction. And he talked about giving that some praise, called a yes, sir, Heat Nation, stand up, standing ovation. Congratulations, love you, brother. Really do appreciate that. When I'm telling you, Marcellus Brown and the way Wade Sr. was talking on the program, they paid a lot of appreciation, they paid a lot of homage and love to each other. I appreciate that, seeing people do that. Now, I would like to, at some point in time, because athletes normally pay homage to the mothers, and oftentimes they'll sometimes pay homage to the fathers, but I want to see mothers and fathers get together, and maybe we'll come up during the show talking about women and how oftentimes women do their part, working overtime, driving up and down the highways to make sure that things go well. And so I want to make sure I give that praise too for Big C Sports. The Wade spent more than 14 seasons in Miami and holds a franchise record with 21,556 points, 5,310 assists, 1,492 steals, and he helped lead Miami to NBA championships in 2006, 2012, and 2013. LeBron James was playing alongside the great Dwayne Wade during 2 of those title runs, and the pair were teammates in Miami from 2010 to 2014, and then played together with Cleveland for part of the 2014-15 season. LeBron James predicted that Wade as a lock for the 2023 Hall of Fame class when his eligibility was first announced in December. And I, too, want to say congratulations to Dwayne Wade. Also, some other great men, Dirk Nowitzki, Tony Parker, Paul Gasol, Becky Hammond, Greg Popovich joined Wade as the biggest names of the 2023 NBA Hall of Fame class, paid homage to by Big City Sports. And Wade will be formally inducted on Saturday night in Springfield, Massachusetts, and give that some praise. Give it praise, praise, praise. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you, on every Big City Sports show, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You could call Uber. You could call Lyft. You can take a cab. You can sleep it off. You can walk it off. But don't get behind the wheel of a car after you've been drinking. The life you save may be your own or people that you love. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. He said, rumble, young man, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose? Ali would say, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat, because all the Big C burgers that I eat make me light on my feet. That's why I float like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee, and I rumble, young man, rumble. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. You know anybody going through that garbage? Pick up the phone and call 911. Because things change when the police show up. No man, woman, or child should ever have to deal with that garbage. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, happy Friday on every BC Sports Show. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day. I want to do what all of us should do as we honor great President Abraham Lincoln and reparations. When he said reparations now, reparations forever. You honor the great President Abraham Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation. He said reparations now, reparations forever. If any of you want to receive a paycheck after a hard day's work in them there hills, down in the valley, no matter where you are, you put in the time and you go to the boss and you say, I want my check. Remember what President Abraham Lincoln said when he said reparations now, reparations forever. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.